Hello, my name is Dominick Azzolina, and today I'm going to be interviewing my dad, a statistician and hydrogeologist.
What did you learn from high school?
Well, Dominic, I learned a lot in high school, but if I had to pick three things, I would say that I had a really good foundation in math. So that's algebra, pre-calculus, and calculus. And that gave me the training that I needed to be a scientist later in life. I had very good foundations in science, so biology, chemistry, and physics, which also helped me to have the foundations to be a good scientist later in life. And then also, high school helped me to learn how to formulate my thoughts, public speaking in presentations, writing in reports, and those are skills that I still use today in my own work.
Did you know what you wanted to do coming out of high school?
Well, I thought that I did. When I graduated high school, I went to college to become a civil engineer to build bridges and roads. But when I got to college, I was interested in many things, and I actually changed majors 5 times. So I explored a number of different majors, and it wasn't until my junior year in college where I declared a major in what was then called geological and geophysical sciences.
A lot of people say you have more free time in college, but you kind of have to have more discipline. Is that true?
That is very true. So, for example, in a semester at college, you might only have 4 classes, and those classes might only meet 2 or 3 times a week. So, you might only have 8 to 10 hours of class in your week, which means you have a lot of free time, or what we sometimes call discretionary time. And if you choose to use that free time to do things like play video games or go out with friends, and you don't get your work done, you can fall behind. And so you have a lot of free time, but you need to be disciplined with your time management so that you make sure you get your homework done, you prepare for tests. And so being in college, you have to have a lot more responsibility with how you manage that free time.
Could you tell us about your first job?
My first job was really interesting. I worked for a company called Schlumberger Oilfield Services, and I moved to a town called Graham, Texas, and then later I moved further south in Texas to a town called McAllen. And I spent 3 years there doing what they call logging, not to be confused with tree logging. This is logging of oil wells. And so I would go out to oil fields and work on oil rigs, and we would send instruments down to these wells, which were 15 to 17,000 feet deep, and we would collect electronic and physical measurements of those wells. And I did that all throughout West Texas, South Texas, and the Gulf Coast region. I did that for about 3 years before moving back to the Northeast.
What did you learn about this job and compared to schooling, all the schooling you've taken?
Well, the job was very intense. So the energy sector never sleeps, and that job was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So I used to work 21 days on and 7 days off. And during those 21 days, I was very rarely home and didn't get many breaks. And so one thing I learned was just the intensity of the energy sector and how hard people work to bring energy to the United States. Also learned the difference between how things are in school, which is very textbook oriented. The problems always have a very clear solution, versus how things are in the real world, which is sometimes not perfect and takes a lot of creative thinking to come with a solution.
How did you go from that job to your current job?
Well, it wasn't exactly a straight path. When we left Texas and I moved to the Northeast, I bounced around a few other jobs and also went back to school. And it wasn't until later in life I made some relationships, and a company from Green Bay asked me to move out to Green Bay to lead a market sector for them. And I took that job, and then had another opportunity to go back to school through the Department of Energy, and that led me to my current job. So Really, it was just a little bit of random luck that led me to where I am today.
What do you like most about your job?
Well, I really like the fact that every day is different. So in any given day, I could be working on between 1 and 10 different projects, and I get to work with lots of different people of different backgrounds: engineers, geologists, scientists, chemists, laboratory data, field data, computer-derived data. And so that keeps my job very interesting. I'm a kind of person who gets bored easily, and so I like a job that's different every day because that keeps my attention and keeps me interested in the work.
All right. Do you have any life advice sort to wrap this thing up?
I would say one big piece of life advice is to keep an open mind. So as you go through school, you're preparing yourself for the future, and it's good to have a strong foundation in your schooling and your academics, but you also need to be able to adapt and evolve with the current situation. So you may go to school and focus on a career that goes one direction for 5, 10 years or even longer, but you'll need to adapt one day to the change in that career, particularly in the new economy. So I would say my words of advice would be to keep an open mind and be flexible and be able to adapt.
All right. Thanks very much for your time.
You're welcome. Bye.